Hello, I'm Bay Mud, these are my hands, and here are some synths, as today we're looking at which ones I reached for while making a more guitar-based folk album and why. We'll also take a listen to the relevant stems to hear how each one contributed to the various arrangements. If you've been around a bit, you've heard me talk about my Patient Whales side project, as I've been adding tracks to it for over a year. As part of that, in a constant effort to merge my folk guitar roots with synth gas gear nerdery, I've been using synths and pedals to create textures and atmosphere in what I like to call ambient folk. Because remember, genres are made up and the points don't matter, etc. And if you saw the video of the overcrowded cable farm I call a studio, then you may be surprised as I was by some of the synths I chose to use, considering what all was available. Apologies in advance for continuing to let my Juno 106 sit idle on the shelf. While Patient Whales Ate the Sea is largely a guitar-based album, in many cases, it was a synth that unlocked my excitement for a given track. Case in point, track 2, The Fourth Emperor, wasn't really exciting me until I began adding layers of ambient textures from the Dreadbox Nymphes, whatever. Starting with a mostly noise-based preset and layering in some pads. I'll solo the layers, then bring in the rest of the mix.
The empire demands blood once more. It's fickle to leave.
Speaking of pads, I often go back to my beloved Korg Polysix, a synth I've had for nearly 20 years of gigging and maintenance. I just replaced some of the switches and should probably have done a few more. It handles lush pads and pseudo organ sounds on songs like track 9, Back to Bed. And adds ambience to track 3, Let's Take a Walk.
And if the sun gets too hot,
while we're on this track, it's a good time to introduce another big contributor to the album, my trusty Hohner Pianet T. I can hear you already, but Mr. Mudd, that's not a synth, it's an electric piano. My video, my rules. I have a soft spot for this poor man's Rhodes or Wurlitzer and find its warm, slightly dirty tone endlessly inspiring. It provides the plinky lead on Let's Take a Walk.
even in the shady spots.
It also gets slathered in effects on track 10, Nowhere Together. Here it is dry. And then routed through the Platas Baclangs, Chase Bliss Onward, and Lost and Found. And finally in the full mix.
Maybe I could follow you and you could follow me. Or you could follow me and I could follow you too.
The Pianet also stole the show entirely on the guitar-free track 6, The Mouse. Again with some added Baclangs for good measure.
If it weren't for the cats in this neighborhood, I'd roam freely like I should.
The Yamaha Reface CP fills a similar niche, but its size lends itself to a different playing style, not to mention the onboard effects that I can't get enough of. It takes over the plinky melodic duties on track 4, It's Raining.
Maybe I'll never go outside again. Yeah, I might never leave the house again. Could invite some friends.
Later, the CP lets loose with the onboard drive on album closer and title track, Patient Whales Ate the Sea. This track took me a while to complete, but that overdriven melody was part of why I couldn't let it go. It's also doubled by the Pianet here for 2 complementary timbres. Of course, my trusty Deluge also contributed a lot to this album. Since I like to stay out of the computer as long as possible, a few of these tracks were demoed entirely on the Deluge. Here's the demo for track 1, A Few Questions.
What do you smell? You wake up in the morning. What do you yearn for? Inside.
It also featured on some of the final mixes, like some drum sequences on the title track and the piano on track 5, Another Year.
The sunset with someone else. With enough coastal views in small towns.
Track 8, At a Green Light, is arguably the most synth/keys heavy though, as this recording greatly featured the Reface CP, but also introduced the Fred's Lab Töörö on Arp duty, all played via MIDI guitar through the Midicake Arp. The CP doubles the lead guitar for some added warmth. But it also combines with the Töörö for layers of arps that swirl and plink around the arrangement. This one was a lot of fun.
We may not see eye to eye, but time will never leave me behind.
And there you have the synth/keyboards I used when making Patient Whales Ate the Sea. Are you surprised I didn't reach for things like the Juno 106 or my beloved Sledge? Maybe next time. This is to say nothing of the pedals that are all over these recordings too. Would you be curious to hear which ones or how they were used? Let me know. Spoiler alert, it's a lot of Onward and Lost and Found pretending to be synths. In any case, after over a year of slowly adding tracks to the album, Patient Whales Ate the Sea is finally done, and you can check it out on Bandcamp. Stay tuned for some listening party announcements too if you want to listen live with me and chat. Otherwise, more synth experiments coming soon, I promise. Thanks for watching.